Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson. Thank you so much for joining me because today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this is a huge movie. That's kind of an understatement. A lot of people still think it's the best Star Wars film ever made, and I don't blame them. It's definitely the most legendary Star Wars film of all time, I think, just because of everything that happens, so much that happens. It's also one of the greatest sequels ever made. It's just an awesome movie. So I'm really excited to dive in with this one. In my countdown to the Rise of Skywalker. Yay. Okay, so fun fact, I really used to dislike this movie. When I was a kid, I didn't enjoy it much at all. I don't know why. For some reason, I like I said last week, A New Hope has always been my favorite, and it still is. And I always enjoy watching that. But for some reason, when I was a kid, watching Empire was just it felt so slow to me, and I don't know, for some reason I didn't like the Hoth stuff, I didn't like the Dagobah stuff, I didn't like the Cloud City stuff. Like, I don't know, it was weird. Really strange. I honestly can't explain it because I watch it now. Like, I watched it yesterday, and I'm just like, this is an awesome movie. I mean, it's not my favorite still, and it's probably just some residual angst left over from childhood, but I just can't put my finger on why I just didn't ever really take to it. I don't know. It's weird. But as an adult and as a avid watcher of movies, it's so good. It's so awesome. I don't know where to begin because there's so much that happens in this movie that moves the story forward, moves the trilogy forward, and all our characters are sent on different paths, and they are all in completely different places from where they began. So I don't know where I should really what I should really start with. Maybe I'll start with Luke first. Luke's journey in this film is really great. It's really awesome that Ben appears to him as a Force ghost on Hoth and tells him to go to Dagobah and to seek Yoda and be trained to become a Jedi Knight under Yoda. And it's really good to see, even though Ben's not around anymore, Luke can, his journey's not over, and there's still hope for him to become a Jedi. And meeting Yoda for the first time is obviously a huge deal. The legendary Frank Oz, Miss Piggy himself, voiced obviously and puppeteered Yoda in Empire and Return of the Jedi as well, and then he's obviously gone on to voice Yoda with everything else. Apparently Jim Henson, I didn't know this, Jim Henson was offered the role before Frank Oz, but Jim was busy working on the Muppets film The Great Muppet Caper, so he had to turn the role down, and he recommended Frank Oz to Lucas and everybody, and that's how he ended up playing Yoda. And I don't know what voice Jim Henson would have done with Yoda, but it probably would have been something a little different than that, so thank goodness that worked out, because obviously his voice is super iconic, and the way he speaks, we all absolutely adore it, and we wouldn't have it any other way. It's weird though too, watching it, I was thinking, because Yoda starts off, when you first meet him and you don't even know he's Yoda yet, some people probably would have guessed it at the time, like, okay, this has got to be the Yoda guy, but for the first 15 minutes or so that you are watching him interact with Luke, he's just this weird old eccentric coot that's just causing havoc and not really making much sense. Doesn't really seem like the wise and magical and powerful Jedi Master that we came to know since then. So it's very strange that as soon as he reveals himself to be Yoda, that he just flips on a dime and becomes the Jedi Master again. So I found that really interesting. Luke, Mark Hamill again gives another wonderful performance, and it's really amazing to see his Jedi powers grow and his Force abilities grow in this movie. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. It's really good. It's awesome. And then, of course, you know, when he gets tricked into going to Cloud City, into Bespin, you know, he has the big epic fight with Darth Vader. And yeah, obviously one of the greatest movie confrontations ever. It would have been really interesting to see what that scene would kind of look like now, because, you know, back then obviously the Jedi stuff wasn't as flippy and twisty and runny as, you know, as the newer films, obviously. So, but I mean, still, like, you're watching it and then you're watching them duel, and the tension's obviously still there, and it's just very palpable, very powerful. And yeah, then of course there's the big revelation, the big twist, one of the biggest twists, probably the biggest movie twist in history, that Darth Vader is actually Anakin Skywalker and Luke's father. So yeah, that's a huge reveal. I really wish I could remember as a kid what my reaction was, but because I didn't like Empire very much, I probably didn't care too much whatever it was. But yeah, very crazy. Apparently the original draft of this movie, that was not to be the case. They were not going to be father and son, which was trippy. They were going to have Anakin as a separate Force ghost instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and instead of Yoda. I don't think Yoda was even going to be in this. Originally, it was going to be Anakin as a Force ghost training Luke, and, you know, telling him that he has a twin sister. So Luke was always going to have a twin, but it was going to be revealed in Empire instead of Return of the Jedi, and her name was Nelith. Was the original name of this twin. Obviously it wasn't going to be Leia, but then, you know, that all got changed, and they decided to go with the Darth Vader twist instead, and I think that works a lot better. Yeah, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I think I had another note about it, and I can't find, you know, I think that's it. Oh yeah, and that Anakin was the one that, not Obi-Wan, that split the twins up. Because we know, having seen Revenge of the Sith, that Obi-Wan was the one that sent, you know, Luke to Tatooine and Leia to Alderaan. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but that would have been a very different movie. Speaking of things that didn't go as planned, or not really planned well, the infamous Luke and Leia kiss that happens in this film early on. A lot of people like to say or think that Lucas had the entire thing planned out from the get-go, and I kind of, from what I've been reading and researching while I've been preparing for these videos so far, is that it doesn't really seem like he had much of a big grand plan early on at this point. So yeah, they could just kind of retconned Luke and Leia being sister and brother, being twins for Return of the Jedi, which makes obviously Leia kissing Luke a bit weird. But that's what that is, and that's fine. And, you know, I don't know if anyone ever noticed, because I don't know if anyone ever says or comments on this too much, but she kisses him a second time in this movie. So right at the end of the film, when he's like recovering in the Millennium Falcon, when they're leaving Cloud City and they're being chased by TIE fighters, yeah, she she kisses him really quickly on the lips and then heads out to make sure that they're gonna get out okay. Yeah, random, weird stuff. Yeah, what else do I have to say? Let's see. My favorite thing about this film is Han Solo and Leia, their relationship developing. There are so many good lines in this. The script in this, I mean, a lot of people have, criticized George Lucas for his script writing. I think I may have mentioned this last week, and he wrote the script for A New Hope, but in this case, he just wrote the story, and then, he had Lawrence Kasdan famously come in, and maybe another screenwriter whose name escapes me, unfortunately, but Kasdan was the big name, who was making a name for himself, who, also would end up working on Raiders of the Lost Ark at the same time that Empire was going on, because that came out the year after. But yeah, he wrote a fantastic script, and there's so many quotable lines in Empire. For as many quotable lines there are in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back just kind of takes the cake for me. The banter between Han and Leia is one of my favorite things in the entire saga. They were made to be together, and I just love their chemistry and the will they won't they stuff, and Han's just persistence, and he's never really that inappropriate with Leia. He just knows how she feels about him before she's ready to admit it, which is, I think, probably one of the reasons why Han says "I know" when Leia says "I love you" before he goes into the carbon freeze machine, which is, obviously probably apart from "No, I am your father," this "I love you, I know" is the other big line from this movie, which apparently originally was supposed to be, so just imagine this: Leia says "I love you" as she, says goodbye to Han, and then Han looks at her and says, "Just remember this, did I write this wrong? Remember that? I did write it wrong in my notes. Anyway, strike that, reverse it. Yes, Leia says, "I love you," and then Han says, "Just remember that, Leia, because I'll be back." That was the original line that Han was supposed to say, and apparently Lawrence Kasdan wasn't too pleased that his line was altered after Harrison Ford and the director Erwin Kershner, they had a discussion about changing the line, and then it became "I know," which I think is just amazing and a lot more romantic than the original "Just remember that, Leia, because I'll be back." It's very, I don't know. It's nice, but it doesn't have the same, gut wrenches "I know," but their relationship in this film is awesome. It's really wonderful. I and then even earlier in the film when they're on Hoth fighting, and when they're in the Falcon fighting, laser brain is an insult we get, from Leia, and then Hans calls Chewie, he says, "Laugh it up, fuzzball," which is one of my favorite lines in the whole thing. And then that's when Leia says, "Why, you half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder." And of course, Han, I just love Han's reply. It's just like, "Who's scruffy-looking?" Just ignores everything else. It's comedy gold. It's just pure charm, and Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher are incredible in this movie and deliver those lines flawlessly, and I'm here for it. Very interesting finding out later in life, but not surprising that the two of them had like a kind of secret affair on set. I think when this was filming, or it was before this was filming, they had a little relationship. I can't remember exactly the details, but yeah, pretty cool stuff. Jealous. What else do we have to mention? I do like how Han calls Leia Your Highnessness. Oh, I love the little, like, your worship, your worshipfulness, like all the little nicknames he gives her instead of just princess. It's fantastic. Okay, what else do we have? Well, here's a good segue. Speaking of Han and Leia, the music in this film, again, John Williams back, the master returns for another epic performance. He was not Oscar nominated for this time. He didn't win, but he was nominated again. But this film is the first time we hear Han and Leia's big epic love theme, which is just, basically the theme to Empire Strikes Back, for lack of a better word, I think. And it's the music that closes out the film, well, apart from the main Star Wars theme in the credits. But then, of course, this is the debut of the Imperial March. Darth Vader's theme was never heard in A New Hope. In this film, we hear it all throughout the movie, and it's, what can I say about the Imperial March? Like, it's just one of the most amazing pieces of music that just really, it's just synonymous with the Empire, it's synonymous with Darth Vader. Every time you hear it, you picture, Darth Vader, and you picture stormtroopers and TIE fighters and all of that. Like, it's just, absolutely incredible. I can't really say anything else. Incredible. The Hoth stuff, I really like the contrast between Hoth and Tatooine. I was thinking about it when I was watching them, like, because, A New Hope, a lot of the, start of it obviously is all set on Tatooine, and it's a dry, desolate desert planet, as we know very well. This movie, Empire Strikes Back, opens on an ice planet. The complete opposite, which I think was, I don't know if that was intentional in that way, but I think it's kind of clever. And the reason apparently that George Lucas decided to, base the first part of the film on Hoth was because he wanted to challenge the visual effects artists. So everything's really easy for them when you're in space, and you're, you can easily hide all of the little, strings, if you will, with a black backdrop, So, but in this case, it's pure white. So Lucas kind of wanted to stretch his team, stretch ILM the furthest that they could go, because, they've got nowhere to hide with a pure white background. So I thought that was really, really clever. Also, there's a line, I think it may be Luke that says it, talking about however you say it, George Lucas says AT-ATs. I looked it up. It's supposed to be pronounced AT-ATs, but I like saying AT-ATs. That's just me, but tomato. The AT-ATs, I think Luke refers to them as their armors being too tough for blasters, or someone in one of the one of the rebels says that their armor is too tough for blasters. But then as soon as Luke decides to do the, I want to say now, Spider-Man trick from Civil War, best reference ever, and then, as soon as the AT-AT falls down, it gets blown up anyway. So unless it falling over triggered some kind of shield dampening something, I don't know, but they blow it up with the same blasters, or unless they use a different, kind of blaster, like something a bit stronger, to be like, all right, it's on the ground, it's disabled, let's just blow it up. I don't know. That might just be me nitpicking. I think that's probably just a nitpick from me. Here's another cool thing. So this is another big film where there's a lot of, not reshoots, but just kind of retconning in a way, where we have, the prequel versions of everyone in this film. And when I say everyone, I just mean the Emperor and Boba Fett. Now, in the original 1980 film, the Emperor, who appears for the first time as a hologram talking to Darth Vader about Luke, was played by a female actress named Marjorie Eaton, and her face had prosthetics added to it and chimpanzee eyes were superimposed, which is why she looks kind of disfigured and disformed under the ominous hood of the Emperor as she's talking to Darth Vader. But then it's obviously not a female voice that's talking, so the original voice was a New Zealand actor by the name of Clive Revill. So he did the original Emperor voice. But then, of course, when Return of the Jedi came around, they ended up casting Ian McDiarmid to portray the live-action Emperor, and can I just say, A+ casting choice, because he's so good. Like, just perfect. I mean, all the cast, I said it last week, I'm going to keep saying it throughout all these movies, the casting, say whatever you want about any of them, the casting is on point every single time. And Ian McDiarmid is just incredible as Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious. Amazing. So, obviously, once that happened and then the prequels were made, Ian McDiarmid, came back and, was Senator Palpatine, Chancellor Palpatine, all of that. So, the prequels are just as much the Emperor's kind of origin story as it is for Anakin Skywalker and everything else. So, because you see his journey from becoming, Chancellor Palpatine all the way through to, becoming fully Darth Sidious, I guess, with his disfigured body and face and all of that. I mean, because he was still Darth Sidious in what is the episode 1 called? Phantom Menace. There was scenes where he appeared. So, yeah. So they've decided to, now that's obviously the main continuity, and Lucas was such a fan of just going back and editing everything of the original trilogy out as much of as he could, with obviously the 1997 remasters with the new effects, and then in 2004 these new DVD versions were released. And so for those versions in 2004, the scene with the Emperor, of course, is the scene most people will see now if you buy a DVD or a Blu-ray of Empire Strikes Back. It's Ian McDiarmid speaking and filming, and it's him as he looked in Revenge of the Sith. So him and James Earl Jones as well reshot the scene to make it, to keep it in with continuity. So it's pretty cool, but it does kind of stick out when you're like watching a movie from 1980 and then all of a sudden here's this very modern visual effect with a very modern looking Emperor Palpatine. But it's still cool because his delivery on all of the lines is a lot like, Clive Revill was great, but Ian McDiarmid is just next level for me anyway. And then the other big change to Empire Strikes Back, of course, was the retconning of Boba Fett. Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back was physically played by Jeremy Bulloch and voiced by Jason Wingreen. And of course, once we got Attack of the Clones and the discovery that Boba Fett was actually a clone, the son of Jango Fett, the original clone. And so then they, because Tamura Morrison played Jango and then ended up playing Boba Fett as a result. So he's, they obviously kept Jeremy Bulloch's physical presence in Empire Strikes Back, but all of his, Jason Wingreen's lines, all of them were dubbed completely. There was only 5 lines I think Boba Fett has in Empire Strikes Back, so yeah. So it's just, there's obviously a rather big change, and I think I remember reading something about Jason Wingreen being not too pleased with the fact that he never properly got paid residuals for his work as Boba Fett, and B, now he's been completely wiped from the Star Wars canon. So whereas apparently Clive Revill wasn't as annoyed about it, but there it is. So those are the changes. Those are the big changes that took place. Another really great character that was introduced apart from the Emperor in this movie was, of course, Lando Calrissian. Now, I love Lando, I love Billy D. Williams, he's awesome. The charm on this guy, he just oozes charisma, and he's just so smooth. Perfect choice to play Lando, and him and Harrison Ford have excellent camaraderie on screen that is shown really, really well. Even though we don't know what the history is, I mean, we found out with Solo a Star Wars story, and through all of the expanded universe that's no longer canon, just the few little lines that they exchange with each other, or whatever Han says to Leia about Lando, you really get a good sense of the implied relationship and how long they've known each other and their history and the stuff about the Millennium Falcon. It's all really well done and all phenomenal. Really, really enjoy. The funny thing is that everyone, of course, knows now, that was pointed out thanks to the internet, I think, but it may have even been pointed out back in the 80s, that Lando was wearing Han's outfit from A New Hope in the end scene when he's with Chewie on the Millennium Falcon. So yeah, that's always really random and weird, and I for years and years and years I never noticed. But I think it's because like Lando's collar is done all the way out, whereas Han wears his collar open. Maybe that's why I never noticed. I don't know. I didn't like this movie when I was a kid, so I'm just gonna blame it on that. Love it now, just reminding, love it now. Love it now. What else can I touch on? I think I've pretty much hit everything. Oh yeah, then there's the whole thing with Mark Hamill's scars and the Wampa attack and everything. That was a big myth, urban legend that was kind of created after Mark Hamill had a car accident at the start of 1977. They didn't film Emperor until 79, and apparently he didn't really have any too severe scarring on his face, because the rumor was that they staged the Wampa attack, and Luke had took damage to his face so as they could cover up his scars. And then I was just reading, the more and more I read and went into it, it just really seems like that wasn't the case, and the Wampa stuff was in the original drafts, and it had nothing to do with Mark Hamill's facial scarring or reconstructive surgery or anything from the car accident. So I just wanted to let you guys know, in case you didn't, that that's just a myth, so it's not actually true. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I've covered everything that I want to cover. Yeah, so this is a great film. Love it through and through. Can watch again and again and again and again and again. But yeah, I don't really know what else I can say. I think that's probably just going to be it for me for Empire Strikes Back. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying these little reviews and trivia facts that I'm giving in the countdown to the Rise of Skywalker. So we are 8 weeks away. So exciting. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, cool. So thank you so much for watching. May the Force be with you. I've been a Kendall Richardson. You've just experienced non-scripted ramblings.